From Hollywood, it is the Newlyweds game. The bright lights of the studio reflected the excitement in the air as the audience settled into their seats, awaiting the entrance of today's protagonists. The announcer's voice boomed through the hall, introducing the four couples who were about to embark on a light-hearted test of their marital knowledge. Couple number 1, married for 4.5 months, were Christy and Brian Hunter Muller. Following them were couple number 2, married 9 months, Oriana and Andrew Valdez. Couple number 3, married just 3.5 weeks, were Myesha and James Riley. Finally, couple number 4, married 17 months, were Kelly and Brian Sivas. And now, the moment everyone had been waiting for, the star of the Newlywed Game, Bob Eubanks, stepped onto the stage. He greeted the crowd with his signature warmth, thanking everyone and welcoming the 4 newlywed couples. After a brief and friendly introduction, it was time to start the game. Bob instructed the ladies to head off to the soundproof area, leaving the husbands alone on stage to face the first round of questions. While the ladies were leaving, Bob reminded the husbands that he would be asking 5-point questions. Each husband had to predict how his wife would answer the same question upon her return. If the answers matched, the couple would earn 5 points. The goal was simple: accumulate the most points to win a fabulous second honeymoon. With the ladies safely away, Bob turned to the gentlemen with the first 5-point question. He asked how often their wives would say they fantasize while making whoopee. The choices were all the time, some of the time, or none of the time. Brian Hunter Muller was the first to answer, choosing some of the time. When asked for details, he playfully declined to share more. James Riley also chose some of the time, adding with a wink that he hoped she was fantasizing about him. Andrew Valdez and the second Brian also agreed on some of the time, both emphasizing that their wives were always the center of their thoughts. Moving to the next question, Bob asked what one thing the husbands thought their wives stuffed their faces with much too often. James immediately thought of bread, mentioning his wife's love for biscuits. Andrew took a different approach, humorously suggesting that his wife stuffed her face with the phone. Brian Hunter Muller pointed to candy bars as Christie's weakness, while Brian Sivas identified potato chips as Kelly's salty craving. The final 5-point question of the round was a sentence completion task. The husbands had to finish the sentence: "When it comes to my wife's family, I would rather spend an entire day having a root canal than a few hours with her blank." Andrew named his wife's grandmother, explaining that she did not seem to like him very much. Brian Hunter Muller chose Christie's brother, Rick, not because of dislike, but because Rick had been staying with them for a long time. Brian Sivas brought up Grandma Boo Boo, sharing a charming story about how she got her nickname from a family dog. James Riley, with a bit of hesitation, mentioned his mother-in-law, though he quickly added that she was a nice person. The show took a brief break for messages and advertisements. During this time, viewers heard about cash offers, retail sales, and important information regarding Medicare Part C and additional benefits. There were also mentions of financial services, beautiful Christmas trees from Balsam Hill, and the noble work of the Wounded Warrior Project. When the show returned, the ladies were brought back to the stage to see if their answers matched their husbands' predictions. For the first question about fantasizing, Christy, Oriana, and Kelly all answered some of the time, matching their husbands and earning 5 points each. Myesha, however, answered none of the time, leading to a playful moment of realization that James had predicted differently. The second question about stuffing their faces brought a mix of laughter and mild disagreement. Oriana thought of donuts, while Andrew had guessed the phone. Myesha also suggested the phone, but James had guessed bread. Kelly correctly identified her love for salt, though she said ice cream while Brian had guessed potato chips. Christy insisted she preferred cereal over the candy bars Brian had predicted. The final 5-point round regarding family members saw some successful matches. Myesha named her sister, but James had guessed her mother, causing a moment of humorous embarrassment. Kelly named her brother, Scott, while Brian had guessed Grandma Boo Boo. Christy correctly matched with her brother, Rick, and Oriana matched with her grandmother, Celia, confirming that Andrew was right about the friction between them. The game then transitioned to the second half, where questions were worth 10 points. This time, the husbands were secluded, and the wives had to predict their husbands' answers. Bob asked the ladies if their husbands would say they had their wives wrapped around their little finger, or vice versa. Maisha felt James believed he had the upper hand, while Oriana, Christy, and Kelly were all confident that they were the ones with their husbands wrapped around their fingers. Next, Bob asked which room in their home had more square inches. Oriana and Christy both guessed the living room. Kelly chose the bedroom, and Maisha went with the kitchen. The final 10-point question involved a friend of the husband. The wives had to complete the sentence. Whenever I look at my husband's friend blank, I cannot help thinking how his what would look on my husband. Christy chose Peter's hair. Kelly chose Tom's chest. Maisha selected Jonathan's mustache, and Oriana picked Danny's grey hair. To wrap up the questioning, Bob presented a 25-point bonus question about the husband's least favorite vegetable. Kelly guessed asparagus, Maisha said peas, Oriana chose carrots, and Christy went with corn. Before the final results, another set of messages played, highlighting Medicare Advantage plans, auto protection from endurance, and the benefits of the Go Medicare Help Center. The audience learned about the importance of checking for extra benefits and the peace of mind that comes with reliable vehicle coverage. Back on stage, the husbands returned to reveal their answers. On the question of who was wrapped around whose finger, Andrew admitted he was wrapped around Oriana's finger. James thought Maisha would say he had her wrapped around his, but she had answered differently. Both Brians admitted they were wrapped around their wives' fingers, matching their wives' predictions. Regarding the square inches in the home, James guessed the living room, missing the match with Maisha's kitchen. Brian Sivas correctly matched the bedroom with Kelly. Brian Hunter-Muller and Andrew both matched the living room with their wives, gaining 10 points each. The question about the friends' features led to much laughter. Brian Sivas guessed earrings for Craig, missing Kelly's answer about Tom's chest. Brian Hunter-Muller guessed Peter's waist, while Christy had said his hair. Andrew guessed Danny's stomach, missing Oriana's answer about his grey hair. James guessed Jonathan's chest, but Maisha had specifically mentioned his mustache. The tension rose as they reached the 25-point bonus question about least favorite vegetables. James guessed okra, but Maisha had said peas. Brian Sivas guessed Brussels sprouts, while Kelly had said asparagus. Brian Hunter-Muller guessed broccoli, but Christy had said corn. Andrew also guessed broccoli, while Oriana had said carrots. With no one scoring on the bonus question, the game ended in a tie between couple number 1 and couple number 2, both with 30 points. To break the tie, Bob turned to the predictions the couples had made before the show regarding their final scores. Brian and Christy had predicted 50 points, which was over their actual score. Andrew and Oriana had predicted 42 points. Since 42 was closer to 30 without being as far over as the other couple, Andrew and Oriana Valdez were declared the grand prize winners. The studio erupted in applause as the winning couple celebrated their upcoming second honeymoon cruise. Bob Eubanks bid everyone a fond farewell, closing another delightful episode of the Newlywed Game, a show where love, laughter, and a few surprises always took center stage.